Welcome, everyone. This is Danny's son from Cure SMA's Community Support Department. We are so glad to have you join us for tonight's Adaptive Sports and Recreation Resource Fair. We are looking forward to diving into all the important information that we have to share, but we would first like to thank our presenting sponsor, Novartis, for their generous sponsorship of Cure SMA's virtual Adaptive Sports and Recreation program. Please note that all attendees will remain muted during the webinar. If you have any feedback or questions, you are welcome to submit them throughout the webinar using the Q&A feature in your toolbar. If you have any questions after the webinar tonight, you can contact the community support team at communitysupport@curesma.org. And without further ado, we will jump into our presentation. So before we hear from our panelists tonight, we want to share a little bit of an overview of the new adaptive sports and recreation resources that we have now available at Cure SMA or through Cure SMA. So first we have our brand new web page, which is on our website, curesma.org. I want to make sure everyone knows how to find it and navigate to it. So on the left side of your screen, you'll see a portion of our main page if you navigate to our website. And where that number 1 is, if you hover over that, then you can scroll down or move your cursor down to where the number 2 is, and that is the Adaptive Sports and Recreation tab. And it'll take you to the screen or the screenshot on your right-hand side there, which includes at the top, you'll see those quick links, which is sort of a brief table of contents of all of the resources on the page. So you'll see that we have our webinars and panels there, resource guides, helpful links, which includes national organization links, including Move United, which you'll hear from in just a little bit. And then there's also a list of some really helpful online support groups and blogs and articles on the topic of adaptive sports and recreation so that you can hear firsthand from other people who are knowledgeable on these topics. And then next, we are excited to have added these 6 new resource guides to the already 35 guides that we have available for you to request on that adaptive sports and recreation webpage. So these are the new ones we have here: adaptive art, excuse me, biking, hunting and fishing, snow skiing, wheelchair basketball, and the last one over here is Volt hockey, which you'll also hear about tonight. And then we also have our webinars, which I mentioned before. We actually have our webinars housed in a couple different places so that you can be sure to find them. On the bottom here, you'll see that they are on our new Cure SMA webpage. You'll see them laid out nicely here. These are the webinars those first 3 are the webinars that we've had as part of this program, one specifically on sports, one on recreation or hobbies, and then the one we're having tonight will also be linked there. But in addition to that, we have on our Cure SMA YouTube channel an adaptive sports and recreation playlist. So that includes all of the webinars that are in this program, and it also includes webinars on adaptive sports or recreation that we've had in past programs, in past virtual conferences, and our virtual Summit of Strength program that we've had previously. So that's a really great place to go if you're looking to watch some of these or new ones that you haven't been able to connect with yet. So we hope that these resources are helpful to you, and we're just really grateful to be able to provide them to the community. And again, if you have any questions on these things, please do reach out to our community support team. So now we're going to hear from 4 experts in the areas of adaptive sports and recreation. These speakers tonight are going to be providing information specifically on how you can find resources in your local area, how you can access those, and then also how you can actually create leagues and organizations if they don't exist yet. So our first presenter is Dr. Derecha, and she is from Move United. She actually could not be here this evening, but she wanted to participate. So she was kind enough to send us a pre-recorded presentation, which I will show you next on this next slide, before we move on to hearing from Josh Hewitt, Marley Robinson, and Dr. Melissa Mcintyre.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Brittany Derecha. I serve as the Member Services Manager at Move United. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a female with brown hair and a bun. I'm wearing black glasses and a black sweatshirt today. And my background is a white bookcase that is a virtual background. I'm so excited to be here today to talk about Move United's membership. We'll be talking specifically about individual membership and group membership here at Move United. So what is individual membership? Individual membership is a nationwide community for adaptive athletes, coaches, caregivers, and supporters. You have access to exclusive benefits, resources, and educational opportunities, and supports Move United's mission to push what's possible in adaptive sports. On the right-hand side of the screen, there is a person with a physical disability sitting in an assistive device to help them rock climb, with an instructor holding their belay rope on the ground and an additional viewer watching what's going on. So who can become an individual member? Anyone. Individual membership is for adaptive athletes, all levels from beginner to elite, coaches, educators, and medical professionals, caregivers and allies who support adaptive sports, but also anyone who just wants to be affiliated with adaptive sports or Move United is welcome to join. At the bottom of the screen, there is a picture of a blind skier and their guide out on the mountain with vests that indicate blind skier and a guide for the blind. So why become an individual member? Be part of a movement advancing adaptive sports, gain access to invaluable resources and support, elevate your athletic journey or professional growth in adaptive sports, and support inclusion and access for all athletes. Individual membership was really created because we noticed there was a gap in the industry where folks did not have, or maybe did not have access to adaptive sports in their local community, or it was not close to them where they could access it regularly. So we created individual membership to be that virtual community connection point so that they can still engage with adaptive sports even if there's nothing close to them. At the bottom of the screen, there's two adaptive athletes, two of our Move United staff members, Tim Brown and Carrie Miller-Ortiz, who are also veterans with disabilities, both smiling and have very pretty bows or hats on their heads. Membership benefits: connection to a nationwide adaptive sports community, access to exclusive webinars, professional development, and monthly newsletter, which we call our member memo, discounts on and priority registration for Move United events and partner programs, and eligibility for grants, giveaways, and scholarships. Like most organizations, folks affiliated with Move United love to receive our swag and support to help them participate in activities that mean the most to them. On the right side of the screen, there are three athletes, all seem to be cheering, some with a physical disability, one taking a photo, looking happy as they're cheering. So how to join? Visit Move United's website, moveunitedsport.org. There's also a QR code on the screen that will allow you to scan the QR code and take you directly to our website as well. You can select your membership level and complete registration, and then start engaging with the community and accessing benefits. On the flip side, we have group membership. So our member network is comprised of 248 member organizations in 45 states. Over 70 sports and recreation opportunities being offered. And you can find a location near you at moveunitedsport.org/locations. This will allow you to type in the sport that you're interested in, your zip code or state, and then it will give you access to all of our member organizations that are affiliated with Move United. It will give you contact information, such as an email or a phone number and their website, and then a primary contact to be able to contact once you do reach out. And we'll also list all of the sports that organization offers so that you know what to expect before you engage with them. Member Network Our Vision. By 2028, when the Paralympics are in LA, that 90% of the US population will be within a 50-mile radius of an adaptive sports program. On the screen here is a map with markers of each of our member organizations across the US. Throughout the map, there are some areas that don't include a marker, and that is because there are no adaptive sports that are affiliated with Move United as member organizations in those locations. We understand this need and are working hard to try to fill it, especially with the 2028 Paralympics on the horizon. We know that there's going to be an influx of interest in adaptive sports from the US population, and we want to be prepared to be able to handle that. But furthermore, we want to make sure that people have access to adaptive sports in their communities. So it's super important for us to meet that 90% goal of having a 50-mile radius member organization for each of our participants throughout the US. So what you can expect from our member organizations. Our member organizations are thoroughly vetted. They're offering safe programming with highly trained staff and volunteers. Each organization is their own nonprofit or tax-exempt organization, meaning they are governed by their own board of directors. We also have other requirements of our member organizations, such as they must have been doing programming for at least 1 year. They have to have a certain level of insurance to make sure that their programming is safe. And we require things such as their bylaws, their organizational policies, and their budget to make sure that they can actually conduct the programming that they say they can in a safe and effective way for the people that want to engage with them. We never want our members to go to a member organization to have a poor experience. So by making sure that each of these check boxes are marked prior to becoming a member organization means that they've been vetted by us for safe and approved programming. Move United offers support, resources, training, and more to ensure their programming is meeting the needs of athletes. Member network. Is every organization a member? No, there are many that are not and have not applied for membership. We can't possibly know every single member organization that is out there that is doing adaptive sports programming, but we want to know them. So if you know of a member organization that you are affiliated with or that you participate with, or you have heard of but are not sure if we partake with them as a member organization, please reach out to us so that we can make a connection with them. We want to have access to additional organizations so that folks in their local communities can engage and they don't have to travel very far to be able to do so. Some of our athletes that are in areas that don't have a local member organization travel across the country just to be able to participate in skiing, for example. So someone from Texas may not have a mountain that has snow there. They'll need to travel, which has financial implications, has equipment implications. They need lessons and training from a qualified instructor. So all of this needs to be taken into account when we're thinking about what we're missing and what we're offering to our participants and our members. So if you participate with a program that isn't a member yet, please feel free to connect them with Move United so that we can make that connection and make sure that everyone has access to adaptive sports. Thank you so much for having Move United at your conference today. We truly appreciate you allowing us to be here. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Dr. Brittany Derecha. I serve as the Member Services Manager for Individuals here at Move United. And my email is bderecha@moveunitedsport.org. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you might have. Thank you so much.
Okay, so as Brittany mentioned, you are welcome to reach out to her at the end of the presentation. We will also share a slide with everyone's contact information on it, so you don't have to worry if you missed your email. It'll show up later and you can take a photo of that. So next we are going to hear from Josh Hewitt about power soccer and getting a league started up in your area. Take it away, Josh.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you all for having me. And thank Cure SMA for organizing this. I tell you, every time I join one of these webinars, I learn something new, and I learned a lot about Move United, and think I'm gonna probably have to reach out to them right after here. As Danny said, my name is Josh Hewitt. I am a father of two young girls, Casey, age 10, and Cameron there in the picture, age 8. Cameron has SMA type 1, and she is holding our currently brand new Bernedoodle, who is downstairs barking at the top of her lungs right now. So it's quite the active household. I am based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and I am excited just to be here to be able to share a little bit about what I've learned in starting a power soccer league here in North Carolina. Feel free to go forward. So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about power soccer. Danny, when you said experts, I kind of laughed a little bit. I definitely don't consider myself an expert. I'm learning something new every single day about adaptive sports, about power soccer, about the needs of our community. And I think that's what's been really, really exciting about this journey. About 2 years ago, my youngest daughter, Cameron, was at my oldest daughter's soccer game, and we were all watching the game. And towards the end, she kind of looked over to my wife and I and said, "Well, I want to play soccer too." And it just dawned on me, like, of course she does. Why wouldn't she want to? And so we kind of embarked on a journey to figure out, well, how does somebody who uses a wheelchair, and specifically a power wheelchair, um, play soccer? How does that happen? So we did a lot of investigating. We called around to a lot of different sports groups that are here in the Research Triangle of North Carolina, and we actually found out that there was no such opportunity. There was nothing here that they were offering. And probably like many of you, you quickly learn that if it's not offered, if it's not something that's currently available, there's nothing left to do but to go and create it yourself. And so we embarked on this journey to create the first Power Soccer League here in North Carolina. Thankfully, we found that there actually is a national league, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them, called the United States Power Soccer Association. And they are a wealth of resources, a wealth of knowledge to help get local organizations, state organizations up and running. So, what is power soccer? Essentially, it is soccer for individuals who use a wheelchair. You do have to be over the age of 5, but there is no upper limit. So we've got folks on the court that that are 5 years old, that are 45 years old, that are 80 years old. As long as you're using a power wheelchair, you can participate. All of our games, all of our practices, everything we do is inside on a regulation size basketball court. And when you play an actual soccer game, it's 4 versus 4. If you could imagine having any more than 8 power chairs out there on the court altogether, it would be quite unruly. So it is 4 chairs per team. And we use specialized foot guards, and we do everything from passing, dribbling, and shooting. And you can see two pictures that are on the screen now. In the upper left is kind of your standard power chair that most of us probably use or see, and we just affix a guard to the front of that. To the right, you see much more of a kind of built up super power chair, and that's called a strike force chair. The strike force chairs, kind of in the name, are very, very specific to power soccer. I believe in the United States, there's only one company that makes them. Um, and those are for more teams that I would say are participating on a state or national level. These are individuals who are traveling to tournaments and to regular games, and they're all playing in a very similar type chair. Certainly, when you start your own league or when you join a league that's just kind of getting going, that's not an expectation at all. You can go in with your chair. You can get some resources, and I'll talk about this in a moment, from the Power Soccer Association to start your own league and do your own thing with your own chairs. Okay, next one. The Power Soccer Association governs all of power soccer within the United States. And literally, power soccer is or can be everywhere. We just happen to be the only one here in North Carolina, but we're trying to start other leagues across the state. But I know that there's over 65 different teams across the United States. So if you're not sure, I highly recommend checking out the Power Soccer Association's website. They have a map and a drill down menu that you can see if there's already a Power Soccer league or team in your state, in your area. To be honest, here in North Carolina, because we're the only one here in Raleigh, we actually have people traveling 2 or 3 hours every Saturday just to come and play with us. It's really amazing. All of the athletes absolutely love it. We're getting ready to start up our next season here in March and kick off our spring season. So it's a lot of fun. Every team or organization becomes a 501(c)(3), and the association has it set up very, very easily where if you're just getting started, you can come and become a 501(c)(3) under their organization. They'll provide you with the insurance, they'll provide you with the documentation, and they'll also help you to set up your very first clinic right there in your hometown. And then, if you want, they'll even send somebody to facilitate that clinic for you. So, tons of resources from the association. They helped us here in North Carolina. They've come out a couple of times to host sessions and trainings with us to help our coach learn how to coach power soccer. It's been a really, really successful endeavor so far. All right, next one. So, yeah, here again in North Carolina, I forgot my own slides a little bit. We are the first team in North Carolina. We just concluded our first, what I call real season, this past fall. We had 8 to 10 athletes participating every single Saturday. This year already going into the spring, we have 15 athletes signed up, and I anticipate we'll probably hit 20 to 25 by the time the season's done, as it catches on. And again, the ages range from 5 all the way up. Everybody comes, we build guards together, we really get around each other and support one another. And what's really great is a lot of the team interacts off the court. They get on and do gaming together. They get together at parks and other organizations. We participate and do some social events too. And it's really brought our entire kind of community together, and something that we didn't necessarily even anticipate. So it's a really, really fun thing. Next one. I really think what this comes down to, whether you are joining an existing organization, whether you are starting out and creating something from the ground up, you have to have some passion. So be excited about this, do it for the right reasons. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You've joined this call today to learn more, to get connected. Keep that spark, keep that fire going. There's plenty of people who will want to join and volunteer, and some of them can, dive in and donate a whole lot of time. Others, it might just be here or there. I think, accept people for where they're at, jump right in. And again, just don't be afraid to ask for help. There's a lot of resources out there. And when it comes to power soccer, obviously you have the association, but you also have people who have gone through the exact same steps that you're about to, whether that be starting the league, joining the league. I have been overwhelmed by the amount of support that other teams have lent us, whether that's jumping on a phone call at 11 o'clock at night to talk through something, a coach calling and giving us some tips and tricks. A very, very supportive community is out there. Next one. So here are a few resources. Again, the Power Soccer Association. We also have the North Carolina Power Soccer League, ncpowersoccer.com. I put up here the Virginia Power Soccer Association. They're one of the earliest groups. They've been doing it for over 20 years. Absolutely phenomenal resource. I give them a ton of credit. I don't think we would be here in North Carolina where we are without the Virginia Power Soccer team. They've come down, they've really supported us. and they just have a wealth of knowledge within their organization that they're always happy to share and happy to connect others. They won't let you win on the court. I can tell you that, but they're willing to at least offer you resources and help. And this is a picture of our group at our closing ceremonies this past September when we wrapped up our fall season with some of our sponsors and all of our players getting together. It was a really fun activity and everybody really enjoyed it. Next.
Okay. Thank you so much, Josh. That was very informative and inspiring to
Yeah.
learn more about it and get more involved. And I know that we have a number of people in our community who are involved in power soccer and are
Yes.
on those teams that travel and go to
Yes.
tournaments and things like that. So a wealth of knowledge. So if you're listening and you want to get some more information, Josh had some great resources. He's available. Reach out to us at the Community Sport. We can still connect you with more people. So next we're going to hear from Marley Robinson. You might recognize Marley if you listen to our adaptive sports webinar in December, where she talked about Bolt hockey, which she's very knowledgeable on. But tonight she's going to talk about Bolt hockey again, but from a little bit different lens in terms of how do you start up your own team? How do you get connected? So take it away, Marley.
Thanks so much, Danny. Yes, so I'm Marley once again. Thank you so much for Cure SMA for having me back. So yes, I'm here to talk about Volt hockey. Not only am I one of the very first players here in the US playing on the Boston Whiplash team, but I'm also the president of the United States Volt Hockey Association, which is the national organization dedicated to growing our sport here in the US and also being the governing body, very similar to the US Power Soccer Association, which Josh was just talking about. And also, for reference, I'm 25, I have SMA type 2, and I'm from Mystic, Connecticut. Next slide, please. So just to explain a little bit about what Volt hockey is, because most people have never heard about it before. It's a 3v3 power wheelchair sport. So in that sense, somewhat similar to power soccer. Initially designed for people who are power wheelchair users. However, we don't have any sort of classification system, so anyone with a disability that affects their mobility is able to play. And Volt hockey originated in Denmark in the 1980s, and it's really big across Scandinavia. It came to Canada about 10 years ago, and it just came to the US just under 5 years ago. So it's super new here in the US. But basically, the aim of the game is to score goals on either end of the court and play with your team. Next slide, please. So this was my very first time when I tried out Volt hockey when I was in college in Boston. This was, I believe, the end of 2021. So at the time, as I mentioned, I was in college in Boston, and I got invited to an adaptive sports expo that was being held where a bunch of different sports were kind of being shown. Power soccer was one of them. And Volt hockey, this was the very first time Volt hockey was ever being shown in the US. So I definitely recommend, if you have a chance to go to an expo like this to just try out a bunch of different sports, it's an excellent way just to see what you like and what might work for you in terms of your own disability. But yeah, this was, the first time I ever was able to be like fully independent playing a sport, which was huge for me. And I'm very competitive, so it fit that need very well. Next slide, please. And then this is just an updated video. This is much more recent. This was a few weeks ago when we were competing in Sweden. As you can see, I have a much cooler rig going on with my chair. It's a lot more custom to my needs. So it just shows we're able to modify the chairs a ton. So like I have a headrest that we added and a lot of extra strapping and supports to really keep me secure. Next slide, please. So, yes, this is the team I on. We're called the Boston Whiplash. We are the first team here in the US. So, as I mentioned, we started in the end of 2021, so just over 4 years ago now. We started out super small. It was like a handful of players. And now consistently we have about 15 players that show up to practice. So we're getting quite big and we should actually probably split into two teams. But we have a great range of ages on our team. I believe our youngest is about 11 years old and our oldest is 39. And we have a great representation of different genders. And yeah, and we're always growing. We go to a lot of competitions. As I mentioned, we went to Sweden recently. It's very big in Scandinavia, so a lot of travel to Sweden. And also we go up to Toronto for some tournaments as well. Next slide, please. So our team is supported by a local nonprofit called the Eastern Massachusetts Volt Hockey Club. We were initially supported by another nonprofit, but then this new nonprofit kind of branched off as there was a need for Volt Hockey to really have, more focus and dedication for our team. So parents and volunteers and some players actually created the nonprofit about a year ago. So as similar to Power Soccer, as Josh mentioned, each team in the US is supported by a local organization, just so that you're basically able to fundraise for the team and have that 501(c)(3) status. So you can solicit donations and apply for grants, because adaptive sports are expensive. So, having to cover equipment costs and especially for Volt hockey, because there's only two teams in the US right now, a lot of our competition time is abroad. So being able to help cover any sort of travel costs and that sort of stuff. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, I'm also the president of the United States Volt Hockey Association, which is the national nonprofit dedicated to growing the sport, similar to the U.S. Power Soccer Association. We're not only just dedicated to growing the sport, but also being the governing body. So we are in the process right now of creating a unified rule book specifically for play here in the US, and also helping new teams get started. So we provide a lot of resources and information for new teams, tell them all of the things that are required to start a new team, and then we try to help with, applying for funding as much as we can because we know the cost of the equipment is pretty much the greatest barrier for a lot of teams. So we try to help out there as much as we can. Next slide, please. So a lot of the work we do at the USVHA is outreach. So we go to a lot of expos and conferences and events. It's very fun meeting, people all across the country to spread the word about the sport. So again, I recommend if you're able to go to events like the Abilities Expo, where you can check out so many different sports and activities, to just get involved. And you're able to ask people in person, questions why they might love what they do, and just get a sense of the sport in person. Next slide, please. So we also host a training camp every year. We hosted it for the first time this past August in Boston. We had about 25 athletes participate, which was awesome. And yeah, it was 4 straight days of hockey. I was absolutely dead by the end of it. But we invited some expert Norwegian coaches and players who have been playing for over 20 years. So they're really able to provide some expert knowledge to help train not only our players, but our coaches as well, so that we're able to continue, that level of expertise here in the US and get more teams going. So definitely I recommend, as Josh mentioned, training camps and clinics are amazing, because you're really able to spend dedicated time trying out a sport. Just because, sometimes if you get in a chair for like 15 minutes to try it out, it's not enough time. because you're not able to really, get maybe modifications that you need, and you might be really uncomfortable and it might turn you off from playing the sport. So if you're able to, have good chunks of time to really dedicate to it, it'll make it really worthwhile in the end. Next slide, please. So specifically to start a new team in your area, these are kind of the steps that we recommend and that we also help out with at the USVHA. So first is, try to gauge some interest for players in your area. You can do that by creating like a Google form or a flyer and sharing it around with, you know, Facebook groups in your area that are applicable to people with disabilities, sharing it to hospitals and different rehab places, just anywhere that you can find where there might be people who might want to join the team. And then, as we mentioned, you always kind of want to have a local nonprofit that is able to support the team just so they can financially help out. Or you can create your own. And then you also, obviously, you need equipment. So there's a few different ways you can go about trying to get funding for it because it's pretty significant. One way is through equipment loan closets. A lot of teams and organizations might offer equipment for free. So that's one way to do it. We do that for the USVHA. So we're able to loan out some equipment to get started. And then there's also grants that you can apply to. So there's organizations like the Challenged Athletes Foundation, which is great, and players can individually apply for that to purchase their own equipment. And then if your team is associated with a nonprofit, that nonprofit can also apply to a bunch of different grants for programming and different sorts of needs. And then obviously you can also get some corporate sponsors. So finding local businesses that might want to pitch in and help out with equipment. And then next up, you need a practice space. So for both hockey and also for soccer, we typically use basketball courts that are indoors. And you'll often want to be able to find a place that can also have storage. So, you don't have to bring chairs home with you because they're take up a decent amount of space. So it just makes it easier if you can keep it on site. And then obviously you need some volunteers and coaches. We recommend, people to collaborate with universities. A lot of the time, college students, might need volunteer hours and are really excited about getting involved with adaptive sports. And then a lot of teams also need insurance, as Josh mentioned, for soccer, you do too. So it really depends on the place where you practice. Some places might ask for more insurance than others. So definitely, that's something to talk about with whatever location you would practice at. Next slide, please. So these are just a few ideas for you to reach out to see if they could support a team to start with. So as mentioned earlier, Move United is awesome, and they have a directory of so many different local organizations that support adaptive sports. So what if you could reach out to one and just be like, hey, I'm interested in, starting a new team, or I would like to join an existing team. They're a great resource for that. And you can also reach out to local rehab hospitals who might want to start up programming in their recreational therapy departments. As I mentioned, universities are often great. Recreational organizations like a YMCA, or as is kind of the theme of this, a lot of players and families will often start up their own nonprofits just because they're so into the idea of the sport and they really want to do it. So as long as you have, a ton of passion, a lot of families will actually start their own nonprofits to support teams. Next slide. Yeah, that's it for me. Definitely, if you want to learn more about Volt Hockey, you can totally check out our website or just Google Volt Hockey, and there's tons of resources.
Thank you, Marley. That was wonderful. You brought up so many good points, things I was just nodding my head along and making notes that I needed to ensure that we have those resources available for people. Thank you for bringing up the locator tool that Move United has too, because I forgot to mention that we have that linked on our website underneath the helpful links. So if that resonates with you and you think that might be useful, go to that website and you'll find that resource that Marley was describing. So next we're going to hear from Dr. Melissa Mcintyre. She's going to talk to us about a program out of Utah called the Trails Program.
Thank you, Danny. So again, I'm Melissa, uh, and I just really kind of wanted to give a little bit of intro with this slide of kind of my pathway into adaptive sports and how I end up talking here today is so I'm a physical therapist by training. Before I went into PT school, I started volunteering with this adaptive sports program, which is called Trails, and it was started by a physical med and rehab doc, mostly in spine that worked in spinal cord injury, and just realized that it's a very diverse population, and not all the adaptive sports equipment was well suited for the whole population. And started a program where they started designing equipment and moving forward, and I was introduced to that before PT school and loved it. You know, growing up in Utah, we have the mountains, we ski, we bike. If we can be outside, we're happy outside. Um, and so being exposed to that before I became a physical therapist, it was a very big impression for me. And then after PT school, I started working with neuromuscular diagnoses such as SMA. And I just realized that that same diversity exists in spinal cord injury as it does in SMA, and this could be a good fit. So I met with the program and said, "Hey, I would like to start kind of bringing over some of our neuromuscular individuals," and they said, "Let's do it." And that was really the start. And I kind of wanted to tell that story because hearing Josh talk and Marley talk, it just kept resonating with me of how so many of these things that we get involved with and end up being one of our favorite things we ever do. Um, starts so small and you're like, I don't know how this is gonna go, but let's just see, and then it just builds over time. And so I couldn't, like, my favorite part of the day was listening to Josh and Marley talk because it just, one, such cool programs, and then two, really resonated with a lot of the feelings I had as we kind of went on this endeavor. So what is trails? Trail stands for technology recreation access lifestyle and sports. That's a mouthful to say, so we call it trails. um, but it's really just an adaptive sports program we have here that's focused on really treating and getting people out across the entire spectrum of physical ability. So next slide. Yes. Perfect. So flyover view of trails. They do a lot. You know, you see the stat of like 14,000 annual programming hours. I have no idea if that's current. They gave it to me one time and it's just going to stay there. But it's a lot. Basically, what it means is 5 to 7 days a week, they're doing something. You can see the list of adaptive sports that they do. And those are adaptive sports that are not just here in Utah, but everywhere or in a lot of places. And this talk's really just going to focus on a few of them. But I wanted to highlight that there are multiple ways to get involved. And I think Josh and Marley did a really good job of that as well. So the sports we'll talk about today are a little bit of alpine skiing and some of the water sports we have, mostly just because they tell a little bit of story of um, some of the shift that's happening in adaptive sports right now and adaptive sports equipment. So next slide. So adaptive sports equipment, what equipment and for who? So that so much depends on who you are and what your abilities are. So this is a good example of a really nice piece of equipment. It's called the bi-ski, and you can see that this individual is skiing downhill with pretty good control, very independently making turns. But that individual has a decent amount of upper extremity strength and core strength. So that works really well for some, not as well for others. On the right-hand side, the video that's playing, you can see that that's even a more aggressive version of adaptive equipment where tighter turns. That individual is shifting a lot in their trunk and their upper extremity mobility. Again, really great piece of equipment for some, not for all. So next slide. And so some equipment that's geared towards individuals with maybe higher level of impairment would be something, this is called the cart ski. It's made out of a company in France. And that operates off of outriggers. So individuals pull in or push out to articulate those skis. In the video on the right, you can see that we have a tether behind it. That's really to make it act as an emergency brake. The ski is wide, it's got a wide base of support, so it doesn't tip easily, but that also means when it gets going, it gets going. And so when people are learning, we often need to kind of help scrub speed. But that also requires a lot of upper extremity strength and rotation. So again, good for a lot, not everybody. And that's what we kind of started seeing. So if we head to the next slide, we're going to talk about what I think is a very unique piece of equipment, which really opened up sports like skiing to a whole other category of adaptive athletes. And this is that ski that I showed you before. Um, but we took off the outriggers and we added actuators to it and a wheelchair joystick control. So this ski can actually be controlled with either wheelchair joystick controls or a sip and puff system. So you see that this individual is using the wheelchair joystick. And what I want to draw your attention to is that every turn they're making is controlled by them. We still have that tether to act as an emergency brake. And really, that's your ski instructor because you also need to kind of learn how to ski the ski as well. It's very hard. I tried it and it took some time. The other thing I really like to point out in this photo, if you look at the individual in the background at the very end of the clip that falls, that is that kid's dad, and he left him in the dust the entire day. Um, so again, this opened up a whole new avenue of skiing for individuals with a higher level of mobility impairment. You can go ahead and head to the next slide. And so that was skiing. And kind of simultaneously why that ski was being developed, it's not always winter in Utah, so we have a lot of these other programs going on. And again, I just kind of want to highlight some of the equipment that's available that a lot of adaptive sports programs around the country and world have. So here on the top left, you can see a paddleboard that's modified with a seating system and outriggers to make it more stable. That photo in the middle, you can kind of see more of that seating system, as well as some grip modifications for individuals that need help holding the paddle or with their grip. And then on that far right uh, image, you can also see that we even have some adaptions for holding up a paddle in, say, water sports. And what I just want to point out here is like some of these are very, very simple adaptions, right? Even as Josh talked about, like starting in power wheelchair, like we didn't need a super specialized wheelchair. Like we'll just put a guard on a front and let's start, right? So some adaptions can be very simple, and then we can go up the realm and complexity of very specialized sporting power wheelchairs or specialized adaptive equipment. So next slide. So now I'm going to show you again one of those on this next slide, one of those specialized equipment. And this is a sailboat that we have. And it has the same technology as the ski, where everything is controlled in that sailboat, uh, either a wheelchair joystick control or a sip and puff. So this individual you can see actually is on a ventilator and has no functional use of their upper extremity, but they are controlling that sailboat independently out on the water on a beautiful day on the lake. Next slide. Okay, so I've talked a lot about what we have here. And again, I think this falls really well in the line of what Josh and Marley talked about is now how do we expand it, right? And how do we get this equipment and these programs access to more and more individuals? That was really one of the things that when Trail started developing this equipment, they felt was a really high priority. So they do have what I like to call traveling skis and boats, oh my. Um, and how that's worked is they actually created a spin-off company called Tetra Adapt, which is just a nonprofit, and it allows us to build these skis and loan them out. And so here you can see a list of programs in the United States that actually have that ski I showed you, and it is a part of their adaptive sports ski program, and we are continually looking for programs that have the structure to use this equipment and patient populations and do skiing, because that's really the way we get this equipment out to the most individuals. And then you can also see that we have some skis outside the United States as well, including Canada, France, Japan, Sweden. I was lucky enough to go to the training we did in Sweden with the uh, ski, and that was a really fun experience. And then they're also doing it with the boats, not as the ski we can actually pack up in a box and ship to them. The boats are a little harder to pack up, but there are also adaptive sports programs that we are distributing the sailboats to as well. And how this process works is typically what we do is we either travel out to that site and we spend multiple days training them on the equipment. Again, uh, our first speaker with Move United talked a lot about ensuring the need for safety. And that's a big thing we think about as well. And so that's really part of that training program to make sure the instructors are set up for success as well as any of the skiers there. So we either travel to them, we train for a few days, or there are some conferences like Ski Spec is one within the United States that instructors will come there, we'll train them for a few days, and then we'll send them home with the ski. And that's a little bit how that process works. Next slide. So with that, and again, I think so much of our talks kind of fit into the same themes of we all love competition, right? A lot of us are very competitive. Uh, and that's another thing that's developed over the years of we have recognized that this is a piece of equipment that opens up the possibilities to more individuals. And one of the things we've started building over time is at the end of every year in March, we have a national championship with the Tetra ski, where multiple programs come in. On this left-hand side, you can see our opening ceremony. And anybody who came from another state or another country, that's their flag coming down our race course in the opening ceremony. Um, so every year we host a national championship where we have local skiers as well as other programs come in and have a big competition. It is a lot of fun. We have a huge cheering crowd. It's one of my favorite days of the whole year. So if it's something you're interested in, again, something you could come. Really, the goal of this program is that this lays the foundation for uh, adaptive ski competitions outside of Utah and in other programs across the United States, and using that as a foundation to try to pivot this type of equipment into the Paralympic Games. Uh, Hopefully, when the games come back to Utah in about 9 to 10 years, I can't remember the exact same time, is this will be a sport within the Paralympic Games and something we've been working on. So, next slide. And then this is really just a slide with contact info, and there's like three different things of contact info on here. Of ways to get involved or ways to communicate or find out if there's anything near you. So I'm just going to talk very slowly so I can leave this up long enough for everybody to get the contact info they need. The one on the far left is our local program. That QR code just under it will take you to the local site. Uh, the one in the middle is really specifically for Tetra Adapt, which is that nonprofit spinoff we did to allow us to distribute this equipment. And the one on the far right is very specific to the ski in general. That's where you find a lot of the info of, say, the race, uh, and so forth. The really great thing is they all connect to each other. So if you get one of them, you're probably pretty good. Next slide. Okay. And then again, kind of just reiterating, what about outside of Utah? Again, Tetra Adapt is really pushing that process forward. Next slide. Yep. And thank you for listening. I know Danny mentioned that all of our contact info will be available. Again, feel free to reach out to me if you want to talk more about this, or if you want to take a ski vacation to Utah. We would love to see you, or love to see you on any other ski program or sailing program or any adaptive sports program anywhere in the United States or outside of it.
Thank you so much, Melissa. That was awesome. It gets me so excited. I'm a big Olympics fan, so I'm sad that we're like closing out this season, although the Paralympics, right, are coming up now. Winter Paralympics, are they? So, but it gets me excited thinking about the future and that we could possibly be seeing this in the future and be saying, oh, I remember when Melissa was talking about this. So it's awesome to see. Thank you so much for that. So we want to skip forward here. Here we go. So we wanted to leave just a bit of time for questions, and we did have one question come through. Marley, you did touch on the question, but I saw Josh nodding his head, so he might be able to add to this. Someone asked, what are the best strategies for reaching out to recruit players or coaches to help with you? Or to help get the team started and to fill the roster, and then also so that people aren't burning out in coaching and volunteering and things like that. So if you have more, Marley gave some great strategies. If you wanted to build on that, Marley, go for it.
Yeah, for sure. So for players specifically, I know for our team, the huge way that players found out was just through word of mouth, through people who were existing players and friends, and they love it so much. It's the only thing they talk about a lot of the time. So word of mouth is huge, but definitely Facebook groups are great. There's the SMA Facebook groups that you can kind of utilize and throw stuff in there. Definitely reach out to like your PT or your OT that you might have. They can also share it with a lot of their patients who might have similar disabilities. And just, you can also Google like local disability organizations in my area, and a lot might pop up, and you could reach out to them too. And for volunteers and coaches, as I mentioned, college is a great youth students. They're usually super passionate and want experience, and PT and OT students especially are awesome. So yeah, those are kind of the big tips I think I have.
Those are great ideas. Josh, did you have anything that you would do outside of that or recommend?
The other thing I would drill into, especially for coaches, and I would second everything Marley said, but for coaches, we actually sent messages out to like the Moms of Raleigh Facebook group, like we were overwhelmed with the number of people who reached out and wanted to support, and wanted to be like assistant coaches or head coaches. A lot of retirees or people who had other kids that played soccer, and they wanted to bring that knowledge to us. So it was a good problem to have. But I would definitely say social media can be your best friend. I would just say when you are searching for coaches, um, passion is one thing, and passion is great, and excitement is great. But you do want to kind of gauge the level of commitment that somebody's going to be able to give you. The worst thing you could have is, 10 players show up and their families show up, and your coach, unable to make all of the sessions or anything like that. So anytime you are, setting up a program and you're trying to recruit, just always have in mind the time commitment and making sure that you're really upfront with people about what that could be.
Yeah, those are great tips. I wondered too about, you mentioned like putting it out in your local different groups and on Facebook and things like that. Um, Also like reaching out to like, obviously Volt Hockey doesn't have this, but for soccer, like the reaching out to your local soccer organizations, might be people who are on children's soccer teams or school soccer teams. They're like, yeah, this would be cool. Let me get involved in this side of soccer play. So that might be cool too.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, and just sorry to jump in. One thing I would add to
Oh,
that
please.
is, especially if you're involved too, or if you have questions, is like on the healthcare provider side, like we get these questions a lot. And so even if you're organizing something, like let your healthcare provider know you're doing it. Because I can't count the amount of times I'm running around in clinic just showing videos of whatever sport I think is cool and talking to anybody I think would be interested. And I would say that goes for anyone on our team. Um, and so I think your healthcare providers, again, because that's the world I'm in, if they know it's an option, like it's one of our favorite things. And so they can also kind of drum up some of that as well. And then to second what Marley said, like the best advocates are fellow athletes. Because I can talk about it all the time, but some of my best advocates at getting people that are maybe a little reluctant out are their buddies who have gone. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up as well, Josh. And Marley were talking. I was thinking, oh, if you have a neuromuscular clinic that you go to, or a neurologist that you go to, or we all love, love, love our PTs, and OTs are so important in our lives and in the lives of the people that we love with SMA. Definitely share that information with them. So thank you for that. That was a great discussion. Okay, so as promised, we want to share everyone's contact information here. So Dr. Derecha and Josh, Marley, and Melissa, all of their contact information is here. Give you a minute to take a photo, and then remember this will be on our website and our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to reference all of this if you miss anything here. And then in closing, we of course want to thank our speakers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for volunteering your time to be here tonight and to put together your presentations. It is invaluable to all of us, so we just thank you for that. We want to let everyone know that when this webinar ends, a survey from Zoom will appear in your browser, and we would really appreciate if you would fill those out, give us your feedback and ideas. We really do use that for future planning. If there's anything that we can do for you after this webinar, if you have questions, please do reach out to the community support team at communitysupport@curesma.org. And then finally, we want to thank Novartis again for their presenting sponsorship of the virtual adaptive sports and recreation program. We would not be able to do this without them. So thank you all and have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Good night.